Hi, my name is Annie. Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be making this beautiful 3D Cherokee Rose granny square. The square is part of my state flower granny square project, and Cherokee Rose is the state flower of Georgia, at least for now. I'm filming this in January 2026. The state has considered changing their state flower to a native plant instead, but for now their state flower still remains Cherokee Rose. A couple of things about this square before we get started. First of all, this is an easy intermediate level tutorial. So I will be showing you in a lot of detail how to make the square. However, I will not go into very much detail in like very basic crochet techniques and stitches. So if you're very new to crochet, I would recommend you start with one of my beginner friendly tutorials before moving on to this one. But if you have done really any crochet before, you know some basic stitches and techniques, I'm sure you can follow along with this tutorial. Another thing to mention about the square is that this granny square is my original design. So you are more than welcome to use the squares that you make with this tutorial in any of your crochet projects. The only thing that I ask is that you give me credits for the design. I will include super simple instructions in the description of this video so that you can do that. To make this granny square, you are going to need yarn, of course. 4 different colors if you want to make your granny square in 4 colors like I've done here. So the Cherokee Rose has kind of like this 2 colors, 2 different shades of yellow in the center part. So I've used 2 different shades of yellow, white for the petals, and then I picked this dark old rose color, I think it's called, for the background. But you can of course choose any colors you like. I am using a 100% cotton yarn. This is a number 3 lights weight yarn. So this is like a DK weight yarn. I really like this one for granny squares. Other things you need are, of course, a crochet hook, one that matches the yarn weight that you picked, a yarn needle for weaving in your ends, and a pair of scissors. We are going to start our granny square from the middle. So we are going to be working 2 rounds for the center. I'm going to use first the lighter yellow and then the darker. And after that, we will create the petals. And these petals are 3D, as you can see. So the flower really stands out from the background. So go ahead and grab your first color. I'm using this light yellow, and I'm gonna start my granny square with a slip knot. So I wrap the yarn around my finger, take the loop off, and pull another loop through that initial loop. And then I put it on my hook. And I'll chain 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I'm going to join this into a ring by slip stitching here into this very first stitch. So insert my hook there, pull the yarn through, and pull it through the loop on my hook. And here is my circle, although it's a little bit hard to see right now. If you prefer starting your granny squares with a magic ring, you could also do that. And I'm gonna chain 1 stitch here. And now for this first round of the square, we are going to be creating 10 single crochet stitches around that ring, whether you use the 4 chain stitches or a magic ring, however you prefer to start your granny square. We're going to create 10 single crochets into this ring. So there's my chain 1 I just chained, and then I will insert my hook right in the middle of this ring, right there. Be careful not to insert it there. You'll see that obvious opening there. That's not the center, okay? It's just underneath it. So pull a loop through there, yarn over and pull through both of those. It's my first single crochet. And now I can see the center of my ring a lot better. So I keep making single crochet stitches around this ring. And now, as you remember, I chained 1 stitch when I started this round. And for me, that stitch is going to count as my first single crochet. I know some people don't count that single crochet, that chain 1 as a single crochet. So if you don't like to count that chain 1 as a single crochet, that's totally fine. It's important that you do it your way. The only important thing is going to be that you have 10 stitches on the outside that you're going to be working your next round into. I'm going to show you here in just a minute how to count those stitches. Let's see how many I have. I lost count there. I find it really hard to count single crochets there, so I just count them here on the outside. So count all these stitches that are on the outside of your work. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is the last stitch here on the outside, 8. And the stitch on my hook is going to become another, or the loop on my hook is going to become another stitch here on the outside. So I have 9 so far. So I'll make 1 more single crochet here. And I double check my stitches. Count them on the outside, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then the 10th loop is on my hook. And now I like to go into this very first stitch here on the outside of my work that I also count. I just counted that as one of my 10 stitches. So I insert my hook there to slip stitch to close this round. So just pull that yarn through there and pull it through the loop on my hook. And then I can cut my yarn or break my yarn. I think that's the correct term, but I just keep getting cut. Break my yarn sounds so funny to me. Okay, and I'll chain 1 in fast enough. And now I'll show you one more time how I count these stitches here, so that however you close your round there, you can make sure that you also have 10 stitches on the outside. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I have 10. My 10th stitch is the one I just slip stitch into. I know I do it this way, otherwise I find that there's like a weird bump in this center that I don't like, but that's completely a personal preference. So if you prefer closing your round differently, totally fine. Just make sure that you have 10 stitches that you're going to be working into for our next round. We are going to start our next round, and for this next round we're still working on the center of our flower. So go ahead and grab your next color. If you wanted to, I guess you could also do that center all in the same color. So whatever color you picked, if you're using a new yarn, we're gonna attach this first. I start with the slip knot again. If you prefer a different way of attaching your yarn, feel free to use your way. And now I'm going to attach my yarn into one of these stitches here on the outside. As you remember, we counted to make sure we have 10 stitches on the outside that we're going to be working into. So we're going to insert into one of these, and I just pull the yarn through there, and I pull it through the loop of my hook to attach my yarn. And then here I like to make sure that I pull this loop tight. And I'm going to chain 1. And now for this next round, we are working single crochet stitches again. So very much like the first round, but now we're going to be creating 2 single crochets into each one of these single crochets in the previous round, so that we have 20 stitches in total for this round. And just like before, I count this chain 1 here that I just chained as my first single crochet. So I just go straight into the next, in the same stitch, pull the yarn through, yarn over and pull through 2. So now in that first one, I have 2 stitches, including that initial chain 1. And after the 2 stitches, I go to the next one. Grab that yarn and pull it through, yarn over and pull through 2. These might be a little tight. Mine are especially tight because I'm actually using my weaving as you go method to take care of these ends. I will link to a separate tutorial in the description of this video. I'm not gonna go in a lot of detail here, but I'll link to a different tutorial so that you can check it out if you want to. I like this method because then I have less ends to weave in at the end, but it does make these stitches pretty tight, but it can be done. 2 single crochets into each one of the stitches of the previous round. There we go. I have 6 so far that I've worked here. So now I'm just going to go ahead and work all around this circle. So feel free to go ahead and work all around your circle as well, and meet me back here once you're done. Alrighty, here I am. I have just created those 20 single crochets for this second round, and I counted these stitches exactly the same way I did the previous round. So I have here on the outside, starting from this stitch here, the first stitch here on the outside. Starting from there, I have 19 stitches plus the loop on my hook, which is going to become my 20th stitch. Again, if you close your round differently, that is a-okay. Just make sure again that you have 20 stitches that you're going to be working into here on the outside of your work. So I slip stitch there, I chain 1, and then I break my yarn again and pull that yarn through. And there is my second round. Next, we're gonna work the petals of the Cherokee Rose. And for this design, I went for these large, kind of like oversized petals that even overlap a little bit to create the Cherokee Rose feeling. If you haven't seen this rose in person, you can Google pictures of it. It's got these beautiful, large petals. So we're gonna go ahead and grab our next color. I'm gonna go with this white for the petals. And again, I make a slip knot and put it on my hook and pull it tight. And then I'll attach my yarn. Again, feel free to use whatever way of attaching your yarn that you prefer. And then I'll attach my yarn into one of these 20 stitches here on the outside of my work. So insert in the stitch, pull the yarn through, and pull it through the loop on my hook. And then just pull that stitch tight. And I am going to start by chaining 5 stitches. And now each one of these petals are going to be worked exactly the same way. So I'm gonna show you here the first one, and then I'll pause the video. You can watch this part as many times as you need to create all 5 petals. But I'll go slow, okay? So I attach my yarn there, and I will chain 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And next, I'm going to be working double treble crochet stitches in the next 3 stitches here on the outside. And in each stitch, I will work 2 double treble crochet stitches. If double treble crochet sounds scary, don't worry. It's really not any more complicated than a double crochet or treble crochet. It's kind of like the next size up from treble crochet. So we will go yarn over 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. Then I will insert my hook in the next stitch here on the outside. So this is where my yarn is attached. I go into the next one. I pull that yarn through. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 loops on my hook. And I go yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. And that's a double treble crochet. Not complicated. Let's make another one. 1, 2, 3. Insert in the same stitch. Pull the yarn through. 5 loops on my hook. Yarn over, pull through 2. Oh, did I split my yarn there? No. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. And yarn over, pull through 2. That's our second double treble crochet. And we'll work, so these 2 double treble crochets are in this stitch, and now we will move on to the next stitch and work 2 double treble crochets in the next one as well. So yarn over 3 times, insert, pull the yarn through, 5 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. Another one. Yarn over 3 times, insert in the same stitch, and then we go yarn over and pull through 2 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 2 stitches in that stitch as well. And now I'll move on to the next one. Yarn over 3 times, insert in the next stitch, and again yarn over and pull through 2, 4 times in total to complete the stitch. And one more exactly the same way. Here we go. And now at this point, I have here my initial chain 5 in the first stitch. In the next stitch, I have 2 double treble crochets, and then the same thing for the following 2 as well. So I have in total 6 double treble crochets and that initial chain 5. And at this point, I will go ahead and chain 5 stitches again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now I slip stitch here in the next stitch, not where these last 2 double treble crochets are, but in the next one. Slip stitch, and this slip stitch secures our first petal. There it is, our first petal. And I will start the next petal right from this point. So I chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now I'm ready to create those 6 double treble crochet stitches over the next 3 stitches. And then again, chain 5 and slip stitch in the 4th one. So that's how we work all of our petals. If you want to see how we made the petal, feel free to go back here and see how we made this one, because all 5 petals are going to be exactly the same way. So work your 5 petals, and once you're done, meet me back here. All right, I have worked my 5 petals here, and I have just chained the last 5 stitches to secure this last petal. And I just want to show you here where I like to slip stitch this. So this stitch here is where we first chained those first 5 stitches for the first petal. So we're actually go right in, we're gonna go right into this same stitch where we first started the round. So just pull that yarn through and pull it through the loop on the hook. And that's how we secure the last petal. Now we have all the petals. Next, we're gonna be working on this background, but actually before we can bring in this new color, we're gonna do one more round with this white color. And that's going to be creating loops of chain stitches behind each petal. And the purpose of these loops is so that we have something back here that we can work the next round into. So we're going to be creating loops of chain stitches, and this is where I left off. I have just slip stitched to close the previous round. Let's just turn my work a little bit so that I'm in this gap between these 2 petals, and I'll go ahead and chain 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now this is my first loop that I'm going to be working behind these petals. So you have to pull your petals down a little bit to be able to see what you're doing, because we're going to be working these loops back here. So I have 5 stitches here chained, and I'm going to slip stitch this between these 2 petals. So this is where the chain starts, and I go over this petal here and slip stitch here between these 2 petals. And I like to pick up 1 stitch here from this petal and 1 stitch from the next one. So the 2 stitches here that are the closest to each other, I pick up those both, and then I just pull the yarn through and pull it through the loop of my hook. And that's my first loop. And then I start my next loop right from this spot. So I chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I go again here, the gap between the next 2 petals, and I pick up 1 loop from here and another one from the next one, like that. The reason I like to do that is that I feel that when I pick up 1 stitch from either side, it doesn't like pull one of the petals more than the other, and it's nice and secure there. And then I start another one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, secure here between these 2 petals, picking up 1 stitch from this side and another one from the other side. Pull the yarn through. So chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then again secure it here. Pick up 1 stitch from either side. And just pull that yarn through and pull it through the loop on your hook. And 1 more. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. 5 stitches. And then here you'll have to look a little bit to see where you secure this last one. But if you look closer, you'll see kind of the last loop here of this stitch or of this petal, and then a stitch there from the other side, and just slip stitch there, pulling that yarn through all of those loops. And then I like to go slip stitch here at the start of this first petal, just to make that secure. And I chain 1 and break my yarn. And here we go. We've got our Cherokee Rose ready, and next we're gonna start working on the background. All right, so we are going to go ahead and start creating this square around the rose. So go ahead and grab your last color. So once again, I am going to attach my yarn with a slip knot. And then we'll attach our yarn back here, so behind our work. And we're going to be attaching it into one of these loops we created right here in the beginning of the loop. I'm going to this one because this is where I have the previous yarn end, and I'm using my weaving as you go method. So we attach the yarn right there, right in the beginning of the loop. And pull it tight. And I'll chain 2 stitches here. And now I'm gonna show you here. So for this next round, the only thing we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be creating 8 half double crochet stitches into each one of these loops. And now here, you actually can't see it anymore because it's covered up with this round that we're currently starting. Here behind these stitches is that chain of 5 that we created. So essentially we're going to be covering up those chains so that you can't see them. And these stitches here that we're creating on this round is what's going to allow us to create the next round and center our rose really nicely in the middle with kind of this one petal sitting here in the middle of that side. So that's the purpose of this round. And I just chained 2 stitches here. And this chain 2 here is going to count as a half double crochet. So I need 7 more half double crochets for this loop. And here I go into this space here when I create the stitches, so not into an individual stitch. So yarn over, I go into the space, bring the yarn through, yarn over, and pull through 3. Half double crochet. Yarn over, insert in the space, bring the yarn through, yarn over, pull through 3. Yarn over, insert in the space, bring the yarn through, yarn over, and pull through 3. Yarn over, insert in the space, bring the yarn through, yarn over, and pull through 3. Yarn over, insert in the space, bring the yarn through, yarn over, and pull through 3. I'm gonna count how many I have. So the initial chain 2 counts as my first half double crochet. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I need 1 more for this loop. So yarn over, insert in the space, bring the yarn through, yarn over, and pull through 3. Now I have 8 stitches here in this loop, including that initial chain 2. And here you might need to pull these stitches a little bit just to make sure that they are evenly spaced out in that loop. And then we move on to the next loop here. So again, just straight into the next loop. Yarn over, insert in the space, bring the yarn through, yarn over, and pull through 3. Yarn over, insert in the space, bring the yarn through, yarn over, and pull through 3. So this is how we work all around, creating 8 half double crochet stitches into each one of these loops. So go ahead and work around yours, 8 half double crochets into each one of these loops. And once you're done, meet me back here where we started. All right, I have worked all around these loops. I have 8 half double crochets in each one of these loops. And now I'm gonna close this round. And here, to close this round, I like to go into this stitch here. So if I count here from the bottom, it's the second stitch counting from the bottom. So the initial chain 2 that we chained here. I'll just go into that stitch, pull the yarn through, and just like that. And now the next round, as we can see here, this is still a circle. And this next round is what's going to start turning our circle into a square. And on this round, we're going to be working corners with double crochet stitches or clusters of double crochet stitches. And then on the sides, we're going to be creating a cluster of half double crochet stitches. And now, as I mentioned earlier, this flower here is kind of nicely centered in the middle. We have this one petal here that's in the middle of that side. So the reason we had 8 stitches here in the previous round is that these 8 stitches with a little bit of math is what's going to help us create the square this way, to have the flower centered in the middle. And to be able to do that, we need to start this next round at a certain point. And remember how we have 8 stitches here in each one of these loops? We are going to start our next round in the 6th stitch, counting from here. So counting from this point where these 2 petals join. And I'm going to show you here how I count these stitches. So this stitch here is the first stitch on this side. This one here. It's kind of on top of this stitch. And this stitch here is the first stitch on that side. So I'm going to count this one here, the stitch that's the first one on this side, as the first stitch. And I'm going to count to 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's where I need to start my next round. And now currently I'm still here where I close this round. So I'm going to need 2 slip stitches here to get to the right stitch. So I'm just gonna go straight into the next stitch and slip stitch there. And the next one. And now I'm gonna count to make sure that I'm in the right stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'm currently in the stitch number 6 here. And after this stitch, I still have 2 more stitches in this loop. So 1 and 2, this one being the last one. And then the next stitch here, which is this one, is the first stitch on that side. So do make sure that you have still, at this point, you have 8 stitches on this loop. Because sometimes when we close around and slip stitch, like we might accidentally get rid of a stitch there or something like that could happen. So please make sure that you still have 8 stitches because that's going to allow us to create the next round. So here I am. I'm going to start my next round by chaining 2. 1 and 2. And this is going to start as my first double crochet for my corner cluster. And I'm going to create 2 more double crochet stitches into this very same stitch. So yarn over, insert the hook, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. 1 more double crochet in the same stitch. Yarn over once, insert in the stitch, pull the yarn through, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. That is my first half a corner. So for the corner I need 2 clusters of double crochet, and this is my first one. After this first cluster I will chain 2 for the corner, 1 and 2, and then I'm going to skip this next stitch here, and I go into the next one and I create 3 double crochets into that stitch. So yarn over, skip this one, go into the next one, 3 double crochet stitches here. You might have noticed that when I first started this round, I chained 2 here for a double crochet. I know some people chain 3, which I think is technically the correct way. So if you like to chain 3, you can of course also do that. In crochet, there's often more than just one right way of doing things, so make sure that you do what's right for you. Okay, and there's my first corner. Then I'm gonna work my my first side here. And for the side, I need a cluster of half double crochets. And here I'm actually going to skip 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, and I go into the 4th one and I create a cluster of half double crochet stitches here. Having these half double crochets here on the side and the double crochets in the corners is what allows me to create a square shape. So 3 half double crochets in that stitch. Then I'm going to skip 3 stitches again, 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to go into the 4th one and start my next corner. So again, 3 double crochets into the 4th stitch here. So skip, 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 and into the stitch number 4, I create 3 double crochets into this stitch. And once I have my 3 double crochets, I will chain 2, 1 and 2, and then I will skip the next stitch and I will create the other half of the corner in the next one. So 3 double crochets, skip 1, go into the next one and create 3 double crochet stitches here. Here we go. So far, I have created 2 corners and 1 side. And now I'm just gonna go ahead and work all around my work, creating 2 more corners and 3 more sides. So feel free to go ahead and work around yours. If you need to see again how we created the sides and the corners, feel free to rewind here and make this side exactly the same way we made it here. And make the rest of the sides exactly the same way as this side here. And the rest of the corners exactly the same way as this corner here. So it's just double crochet clusters in the corners separated by that chain 2 and a half double crochet cluster on the side. And in the corners we skip 1 stitch in the middle of the corner, and in the sides 3 stitches between those clusters. So go ahead and work around yours and meet me back here. All right, I have worked all around to create this square shape. And now I'm ready to join this round. Now if I have counted my stitches correctly, I should have 1, 2, 3 stitches here before this first corner where I started. So here I like to go here, this first stitch kind of here on the outside to close my round. But as always, if you close your round differently, feel free to use your way. And then I'm gonna go ahead and slip stitch my way to this next corner here. There we go. I like to start my rounds in the corner here. And now the rest of the square is going to be super, super easy. So we've done a lot of counting, especially this previous round was a lot of counting, double crochets, half double crochets, chaining, all these things. So we've made it this far, and now the last 2 rounds of the square are going to be just granny stitches all around. So we're going to be creating clusters of double crochet into these spaces between the previous round's clusters. And in the corners, we do 2 clusters separated by a chain 2, just like the previous round. So I'm here in the corner and I start by chaining 2. Again, if you chain 3, feel free to do that. And then I create 2 more double crochets here for this cluster. And I chain 2. And I create another cluster of double crochets in the same corner space. There we go. There's my first corner for this round. So 2 clusters of double crochet separated by a chain 2. And then I'm gonna go ahead and go into this next space here, the space between 2 clusters of the previous round. And I'm gonna create 3 double crochet stitches into that space as well. There we go. And then another cluster here in the next space. And this is how we work all around the square. So it's just clusters of double crochet stitches all around. So next I will go into this corner space, 3 double crochets, chain 2 and 3 double crochets for the corner, and then clusters of double crochet and the side as well. Now for this round, since we already have that square shape, we don't need to be messing with those half double crochets or any other type of stitches. We just need double crochet clusters into these spaces, and in the corners, the 2 clusters of double crochet separated by a chain 2. So go ahead and work all around your square and meet me back here. I have worked all those granny stitches around my square, and now I will close this round. So here again, I like to go to that first stitch there on the outside of my square and slip stitch. And again, I slip stitch my way to the corner to start my next and final round. And the next round is going to be exactly the same way as the previous round. So we're just going to be creating double crochet clusters all around. The only difference is, of course, that for this final round, we have one more cluster compared to the previous one. So I'm gonna start here from the corner, and I'll chain 2, and then 2 more double crochet stitches for this cluster. And I chain 2, 1 and 2, and then I create another cluster of 3 double crochets into that same corner space. And that's my corner. And then I'll just go straight into that space and create a cluster of 3 double crochets into that space as well. There we go. And that's how I'm going to work all around my square. So clusters of 3 double crochets in the side in each one of these spaces, and in the corner space I make 2 clusters of double crochets separated by a chain 2. So feel free to work all around your square and meet me back here. All right, I have just finished my last round here, and I'll just go ahead and join this with the slip stitch here. Again, I like to go into this stitch here. Pull the yarn through, chain 1, and then I can cut my yarn. And fast enough. And here we go. Here is my Cherokee Rose granny square for Georgia. The only thing that I have left is here to weave in my ends. I don't have that many since I took care of most of them. I do have these extra ends since I ran out of yarn there. I had to change it. But yeah, just weaving in those ends, and then of course blocking the square, and my granny square is all done. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. If you like this, please like the video, leave me a comment, and subscribe to my channel. It does help me a lot. And if you're posting pictures of your square on Instagram, please tag my account. I would love to see your squares. My Instagram account is Wildflower and Stitch. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.